In this video, we will be taking you through the 5 companies that had to pay the largest criminal fines in history and why. You will not believe the corporation that was required to pay the largest criminal fine and the amount paid. So stick around and find out. These multi-billion-dollar corporations have been caught in a scandal. There's no denying it. The evidence is overwhelming, slapped with a fine so massive that it's enough to make their stock prices plummet and shareholders shudder. This is the reality for the corporations we'll be talking about today. Why do these companies have to pay such colossal fines? The answer lies in the nature of their transgressions, whether it's environmental disasters, financial crises, privacy violations, or healthcare fraud. These corporations were found guilty of causing significant harm. The fines they had to pay serve as a deterrent, not just for them, but for other companies that might be tempted to cut corners. Our countdown today isn't just about the size of the fines, but also the stories behind them. We'll explore what these corporations did, their actions' impact, and the fines' aftermath. We'll start from the 5th largest fine to the heftiest fine ever paid, but before we begin, let's clarify something. The figures we'll be talking about are astronomical, often running into billions of dollars. These fines often involve a combination of criminal penalties, civil fines, restitution, and other mandated payments. However, it's important to remember that these figures are more than just numbers. They represent the scale of the harm done and the effort to make things right. Without further ado, let's delve into the countdown. Kicking off our countdown at number 5 is the pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline. They found themselves in hot water back in 2012, slapped with a criminal fine that made headlines. The crime? Healthcare fraud. The company was accused of promoting drugs for unapproved uses and failing to report safety data about a diabetes drug. The company pleaded guilty to violating the Civil False Claims Act and the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, FFDCA. The fine imposed? A staggering $3 billion. This fine was significant not just for its size, but also for the message it sent. It was a clear signal that pharmaceutical corporations were no longer immune to the consequences of their actions. The government was ready to hold them accountable, even if it meant imposing one of the largest criminal fines in history. That was quite a hefty fine, wasn't it? But it's only the beginning. Moving on to number 4. At number 4, we have a case that truly shocked the world. This is a story of a company that was held accountable for its actions in a way that sent ripples through its industry. In 2019, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, imposed a historic $5 billion fine on Facebook, now known as Meta Platforms, for breaching a 2012 order related to user privacy controls and personal data usage. This fine, stemming from a previous settlement with the FTC, marked a significant milestone in privacy-related penalties, surpassing previous records by a wide margin. Before this landmark settlement, the largest privacy-related fine stood at $275 million, paid by Equifax, although it later escalated to $575 million. The 2019 agreement not only levied a substantial fine on Facebook, but also established a dedicated committee responsible for safeguarding consumer data and ensuring transparent privacy policies. This committee plays a pivotal role in upholding user privacy rights and fostering accountability within the tech industry. The fine was not just a penalty, but a message, a clear sign that no one, no matter how large or powerful, is above the law. Next on our countdown at number 3 is Bank of America. In 2008, the United States faced a severe financial crisis triggered by widespread subprime mortgage lending practices. Many homebuyers found themselves burdened with adjustable-rate mortgages they couldn't afford, leading to widespread financial instability. Both the United States Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission embarked on extensive investigations into numerous banks and commercial lenders, aiming to hold them accountable for their involvement in the crash. Among the implicated financial institutions, Bank of America stood out, particularly due to its acquisitions of companies like Countrywide Financial and Merrill Lynch, which were heavily implicated in the crisis. Ultimately, Bank of America faced the largest criminal fine ever imposed on a financial institution in history. The bank settled with the Department of Justice, agreeing to pay a staggering $16.6 billion fine. While this marked the highest criminal fine among all culpable banks, the total penalties imposed on these institutions exceeded $250 billion, underscoring the magnitude of the crisis and its widespread repercussions on the global financial landscape. If you're enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up and go on to subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos. Now let's continue. Almost at the top of our list at number 2 is none other than British Petroleum, typically known as BP. This multinational oil and gas company found itself in hot water following the catastrophic Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010. The Deepwater Horizon oil rig initiated a petroleum leak into the Gulf of Mexico's waters. Gradually worsening, it ultimately discharged over 210 million gallons, 795 million liters of oil into the ocean. British Petroleum, BP, the rig's operator, required 5 months to halt the oil geyser, making the Deepwater Horizon oil spill the largest marine spill in history by that time. The catastrophe severely impacted marine and wildlife habitats, and it disrupted the local fishing industry along the Gulf Coast of Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, and Alabama. This environmental disaster led to one of the most significant fines in history. In 2010, BP was required to cough up an astounding $20 billion payment to create a Gulf Coast Claims Facility, GCCF, that would compensate victims and reimburse governments that responded to the disaster. Then, in 2015, the company reached an agreement to pay what was the largest environmental fine in history, amounting to $18.7 billion. Overall, BP has shelled out over $54 billion in fines and penalties linked to the Deepwater Horizon crisis, a sum that could potentially increase further. This was not just a penalty for the environmental disaster, but it was also a stern message to all corporations about the importance of safety standards and environmental stewardship. The Deepwater Horizon disaster was a tragic event, and the fine imposed on BP stands as a testament to the immense damage caused, both environmentally and economically. Finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, the largest criminal fine in history. And now, the company that holds the dubious honor of having the largest criminal fine in history is the Tokyo Electric Power Company, more commonly known as TEPCO. This Japanese utility giant found itself at the center of a storm following the disastrous events of 2011. The Fukushima nuclear disaster, as it's widely known, was a catastrophic failure at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. This was triggered by the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, and it resulted in the most severe nuclear accident since the infamous Chernobyl disaster in 1986. TEPCO, as the operator of the plant, was held responsible for the disaster. It was found that the company had failed to meet basic safety requirements and had not taken adequate precautions against a tsunami of the size that struck the plant. The fallout was immense. The disaster displaced over 150,000 residents, polluted the surrounding environment, and caused an estimated $200 billion in damages. The world watched in horror as the news unfolded, and TEPCO found itself in the crosshairs of the law. The fine that was levied against TEPCO was staggering. The initial claims against TEPCO aimed to total trillions of Japanese yen, equating to hundreds of billions of US dollars. However, a proposal emerged to cap the total financial liability at around $45 billion. Despite this, civil penalties have accumulated against TEPCO over the years. In July 2022, a Tokyo district court ruled that 4 TEPCO executives must pay 13 trillion yen, approximately $95 billion, for their involvement in the Fukushima nuclear disaster. This fine was a combination of criminal penalties, civil fines, restitution, and other mandated payments. The impact of this fine on TEPCO was profound. The company had to undergo a significant restructuring and received a government bailout to help manage the financial fallout. The fine also served as a stark reminder to corporations across the globe about the importance of safety and the potential consequences of negligence. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the largest criminal fine in history. What a countdown that was! We've journeyed through the annals of corporate history, witnessing the colossal fines that have been meted out to companies that overstep the boundaries of law and ethics. From being a punitive measure to a deterrent, these fines serve a dual purpose. But why do these fines exist? They serve as a cautionary tale, a deterrent for others contemplating similar actions. They also underscore society's commitment to holding corporations accountable for their actions. The impact? These fines often lead to reforms, changes in corporate culture, and renewed commitments to ethical conduct. In the end, we are reminded of the timeless adage, crime doesn't pay. This is particularly true for companies that choose to ignore the rules of the game, the laws of the land, and the expectations of society. These companies learnt the hard way that there is a hefty price tag attached to corporate malfeasance. That's it for today's countdown. Remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos. Until next time, remain curious.